course, Wayne Carey doesn't need introduction as a footballer, but he's released a book, and always tough to do that. It's called The Truth Hurts. So, Wayne, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me, boys.
Now, mate, we're just talking about Andre Agassi's book and your book before you came on. Of course, Andre's copping a bit of a backlash for his book. Were you similarly? Were you surprised by the reaction to your book?
I should say I should never be surprised by what gets written about me, but... Look, the one thing I will say, and I've said this a number of times now, is the book really was about taking ownership and taking responsibility, not pointing the finger at anyone else. And really it was for an amount of time. I was very emotional doing the book, and it was therapy. It really was a form of therapy. And the only way I can explain Andre's, and Andre's a fair bit different to me. I mean, we've probably... thought that Andre's never made a mistake in his life. He's clean as a whistle. He's clean as a whistle, and then we find out that he'd actually tried a drug while he was playing tennis. The only way I can explain that is that he'd been carrying this around with him, obviously, for so long, and then he's about to write an autobiography. And if you're going to write one, you've got to let it all out there. Yeah. And that's the same here. I didn't want to write a book and have people come back to me and say, well, hang on, you didn't put that in, or you didn't talk about that because it was too touchy or whatever. And I think that's what he's done. And then I heard he was also wearing a wig for all those years.
Why are you looking at me when you're saying that with a smile on you? Yeah.
I was so jealous. I thought, where do you get those?
Well, you find out, mate.
Wayne, can I ask you, in thinking about writing the book, did you give thought about regurgitating some of the events that happened that innocent people may again suffer from it?
Well, KG, as you know, and I worked with you for a little while, and you guys, you and Cornsey were different in that I could come on and talk to you guys and would talk about footy or whatever else.
Correct.
Unfortunately, not the rest of the media or people involved in functions had the same etiquette in that it got brought up every time I went back to the Kangaroos or every time I did something. It really does. And what this does, I think, and now that I've sort of explained to people in regards to what I think it can do, is it puts a full stop to that part of my
end of story.
Life. End of story now. I mean, it really now it never has to be brought up again. And look, there are people that, when I say people, there's probably two people, and not two people because they're extended families, and you got to remember, like, obviously Sally and my extended family, they're constantly hearing these stories regurgitated, and there's mistruths behind them. This is the truth. This is exactly what happened. It's now done and dusted, and hopefully I don't have to talk about it.
It's not too bad, because when it gets brought up now, you just say, go and buy the book.
Go and buy the book.
You go and buy the book.
Yeah. I've got to say, Wayne, I think your former wife, Sally, has handled herself absolutely magnificently.
Oh, look, she's Sally's a classy lady, and we have a beautiful daughter together in Ella, who's 4 in January, and we have a great working relationship. I've spent the last 3 days in Sally's pool because Melbourne's been so hot. So Ella and I have spent the last 3 days in that. And look, and she's handled herself right throughout, my behaviour over a long period of time very well, and you've got to give her credit for that.
All right, let's have a little talk about the book. You talk about your childhood, which when you read the first 3 or 4 chapters seems fairly traumatic. On reflection now, how do you reflect back on that period?
Look, it was difficult to put on paper, but I obviously consulted my other siblings, my brothers and sisters, and my mother, and in doing so, my mother actually, obviously had a little bit of an input into those early years, myself discussing certain things with her, and she and along with my other brothers and sisters thought that it was actually quite tame compared to what it was. Tame. And
she had a gun held to her head, a knife stuck up her nose, and a nose split, gassed.
I know, and look, it's fairly confronting, and it is, and look, I probably knew no different, and there's a lot of, and the other thing that I tried to, and I think it comes out in the book, is I certainly didn't want to blame my upbringing on any of my behaviour.
No, it comes out in the book that
way. And I love my dad. I do. He's my father.
Do you still see him? Because he's portrayed as a very, very ordinary individual in the book.
Yeah, look, no, I haven't seen him for about 3 years. When I came back and played for the Crows for those couple of years, I tried to reconnect, and I'd go out to Elizabeth Smithfield and basically get dragged to the pub and ask for a loan. And then I invited him to Glenelg, and the same thing happened. So really, I realised it was a one-way was a one-way street, and I just thought, look, I no longer need this, and I sleep comfortably knowing that, you know, I give it my best shot as far as trying to reconnect. So yeah, but I haven't spoken for a while.
You talk about your family in there and your brother Dick. I mean, I've got an older brother, so they are the one that you look up to. And you talk about him having the yellow Commodore, I think it was at the time.
Yeah,
You always wanted one. Did you ever get one?
Not a yellow one. I got a blue one. But yeah, look. You
I mean, he was the protector, wasn't he? For you.
Yeah, he was. And look, and we didn't have. And then obviously he got to 13 or 14 and left home, so we didn't have anyone to protect us. And I was such a shy, timid kid, and a lot of people don't realise. I used to cry at the drop of a hat, KG, and the sister closest to me, Karen, basically raised us, and she was 2 years older than me. So you can imagine what sort of hell Sam, my younger brother, and I put her through. And she's actually just had a baby now, with her partner, which is fantastic because she's an actual saint. It's amazing. I've never heard a person. I've never heard a person say a bad word about my sister, and yet she has to go to work and sit there and listen to, because people obviously
know who she is.
Karen Carey, are you any relation to that nitwit that played for the Kangaroos? So
Wayne, could I ask you, if young Ella hadn't have come along, where would Wayne Carey be today?
Oh, look,
that's in the book.
Honestly,
where would you be?
I couldn't tell you. I'd probably be dead.
Really?
I really look.
You got that low.
I say that I wouldn't be in Australia.
No, I can understand that.
I wouldn't be in Australia. I would be. I went to America. I think 2 or 3 times. I had psychologists basically tell me it was a good idea to go to America and go to Vegas when certain things happened in my life. Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah,
but and I've thought about it so many times, and really Ella was the one that was the constant that kept bringing me back, saying, because I just pushed everyone away and thought I could handle all of these things that happened in my life by myself, and it's taken me 36 and a half years to realise, I needed help and I needed to speak to people about these issues, and Ella was one that was that constant that run away. I can run away again and everything will be, and just never come back. Just never come back. And then I thought, how could I do that to my daughter?
You can't.
You can't.
You can't not do that.
So it was through that process that I started putting my hand out, listening to friends, reconnecting with friends that I'd pushed away, thinking I was doing the right thing, by saying,
leave me alone.
I can leave. I can handle this myself. And through that whole process, I sit here today a much healthier person mentally. And I won't say physically, because I'd always trained and done that type of thing, but mentally I feel as well as I've ever felt, and more in control, and able to walk down Rundle. I could walk down Rundle Street Mall now and not be walking down there with a paranoia, and a complex and ashamed and have all of those feelings running through my body, which I had while I played football as well, mind you. It wasn't just a case of since I've been in trouble. I just had this real insecurity. The only place I felt comfortable was on the football field, whereas now I actually, walk the streets. I don't walk proudly, and I've said this in a number of interviews, but I walk more soundly. And like I said, I don't have that real shame. I'm still ashamed of a lot of what's in the book. And obviously, some of the things in there I'm very ashamed of, but I just now, I'm much more comfortable in my own skin.
As a human being.
As a human being.
When you talk about that period, obviously, we'd